I got really excited last night about having this started again, especially since I was kicking it back off on the 5-year anniversary of starting over. And that start never really seemed to go anywhere. I mean, I say that, but I've done a lot of healing work in that time. Even when it seems like there's a lot of stuff that hasn't changed, there is a lot of stuff that has. And even more so since, even before I committed everything over to the universe to take the lead on, when I left my ex in Alabama, I was not taking good care of myself, and I had gained a lot of weight. Had a nice Dr. Pepper habit that I was not easily letting go of. Continued that after I got back to Indiana for most of the time. And then I started playing roller derby back in 2022. I did the new skater workshop in February, and it's like I was doing a lot more activity since I was skating, and going to practices and getting hit and hitting people. But it's like I didn't lose any weight. It was just like turning into muscle. So it just kind of shifted. But then, I got every picture that I took. I think that first season I looked like I'm gonna cry. And it was something that was very different for me to do, because I've never been an athletic person, and the entire time I played, I basically made fun of myself for thinking I was an athlete now, which I did not actually commit to thinking that way. I guess I'm in my at all. Like the first season, made fun of myself the whole time. The second season, I kind of messed myself up. So, okay, we ended the 2022 season, and then we had August off. And during August, I had this night where if I was just a normal person, I probably would have gone to the ER because I was having some chest pains, and my whole left arm and shoulder were all not feeling right at all. And I wasn't entirely convinced that I wasn't having a heart attack. But because I had started doing something that I enjoyed, which was playing roller derby, I figured if I did go, and it did turn out that I was actually having a heart attack, then that was going to destroy me being able to continue playing. So I didn't go get it checked that night. I know this isn't really, it's not a funny conversation, because people definitely die with these kind of things. But because I was stubborn and refusing to want to let there be a problem, maybe, and nobody else was awake. If If anybody else in the house had been awake, I probably would have said something, but when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and everybody else is in bed, and I'm not wanting there to be an issue because I wanted to still be able to play and didn't want something like a heart attack to mess up my ability to play roller derby. So I didn't go get it checked out that night. I did get into the doctor within the next couple of days, and he patted me on the back and said, now if you ever have a night where you feel like you might be having a heart attack, go to the ER, because we would like to keep you around on this planet longer. And I know my reasoning for not going was silly. However, I did also have it in my mind that, you know, my entire life has basically been a dark night of the soul. And when things finally have started to look more favorably, it's like I was not trying to give into the mindset that I don't know that that's how I want to word that. I don't know. I remember always thinking that as difficult as life was going to be, it would turn around. And I couldn't imagine, with this trust in the universe, that was going to be the case. I couldn't imagine it allowing me to just keel over before any of the good stuff came around. So I wouldn't let myself think in that direction. Probably not one of my finer nights. I did end up getting diagnosed with high blood pressure and those joyous things. I was on blood pressure meds for a while. So it did give me a whole lot of renewed anxiety about when it did come back to start playing again. And I had a hard time getting back into practices because my mind wasn't in a good spot still. So when it came around to getting put on the roster to play in the 2023 season, I didn't get to play the first half of the season because I messed myself up. And I let anxiety win out. So in order to play the bout that was the day before my birthday, in 2022, I had a bout on my 39th birthday, and so I really wanted to end my 39th year the same way that I had brought it in, which would be a bout on the last night before I turned 40. So I did end up stepping it up to get back in better shape and actually practice like I was supposed to be. But it's funny because that first year I hadn't lost anything that I noticed anyway. Yeah, things fit differently. I had more muscle and all that, but it's still, I don't know, it still didn't seem like I'd really lost anything. So I had another doctor's appointment in May, and then I ended up getting a factory job and needing medical clearance for my shoulder to make sure it wasn't like something that was going to be an issue with the job that I was going to do. So I got cleared, and I remember when I went to that doctor's appointment, it looked like I had lost like 15 pounds, and I was like, there is no way that I lost 15 pounds. I thought the scale was wrong because I was at, it was in the same doctor's office as my doctor, but it was a nurse practitioner for one of the other doctors in that office that I saw. So I was thinking, since maybe their scales are calibrated differently than the other scales, because there's no way that I lost 15 pounds. Then I started working on this factory job, and you know, I was walking all over the place. And my pants got real loose. And I think I lost another 10 pounds probably while I was living on Dr. Pepper and fruit snacks. So it didn't start out intentional at all, but I remember all these times where I was thinking, when the universe is ready to shift me into the next thing, the universe will, it's going to be difficult for me to not go along, you know, and in this case, lose the weight, get in better shape, whatever. You know, it was going to be difficult for me not to. When the universe says it's time, things are going to happen. So, you know, May to July, it's like, no way, that I thought the scale was wrong. And then when I continued losing, then it's like, okay. So I decided when I turned 40 that if I was going to play roller derby, I needed to stop making fun of myself for it and start taking myself seriously. And it didn't matter that I'd never been an athlete before in my life. I needed to choose to act like one if I was going to play. And that was in the middle of the season, and you know, I got to play the last couple of games and they were really good. Thankfully I look slightly less like I'm gonna cry in the pictures from that year. And it didn't start immediately, but I think in October there was a Halloween bout, and I started thinking, it's like, okay, there's a Halloween bout, maybe I'll play if it hasn't filled up by X amount of time or whatever. And then I got to thinking, like, a couple days later, it's like, that's stupid. If I am thinking maybe I want to play, then maybe I should just suck it up and put myself on the roster and do it, because I said I was going to start acting like I wanted to do this thing. So I signed up for the Halloween bout. I was going to practices like I was supposed to. I started skating outside on my own, and I think that was where it really kind of hit me that I was ready to do things differently and to embrace life differently. So I started skating over at one of the schools near my house, and I just loved being outside. And it got to a point where, yeah, okay, yesterday I mentioned the twin flame stuff. For that third knowing that I had back in high school, I kept seeing this group of people that I felt I was very close to, when I saw them in high school, I thought it was the people that I was hanging out with at the time with drumline and all those activities. But then I started seeing it differently, with this twin flame revelation. And then it's really weird because I started seeing all these different scenarios about connecting with these people and realizing that it's not the group that I thought it was from all those years ago, but this other group, and that we've been connected like up at this other level this whole time. Which I know sounds kind of crazy again. And the scenarios, they've changed, like as I've gained more confidence in myself, and who I am, and wanting to embrace who I came here to be. I'm seeing all this stuff so much differently. I used to, in high school, some of my darker days, I would have conversations with this little kid that I kind of put it as maybe my inner child, or so, that was my understanding, but at the same time, it always felt like it was well, at the risk of sounding crazy, my future child. I always saw this little girl with like dark hair like her dad's and my eyes, and I remember I would have like in-depth conversations in my head, and sometimes it would just be looking at the pain that I was feeling from stuff that I felt like my mom had dumped on me. And I remember thinking, it's like, I will not bring a child into this world if I am unable to heal all the shit that I have to work through. And recently, like, I've always kind of seen this kid, and now it's like I'm seeing her at different time periods. And the other day I was meditating, and a few weeks ago when I was meditating, I had a name come to mind, and then it's like, oh. And it just felt like it was her name. And then the other day I was meditating, and I saw her as this adorable, chubby little baby, and it's like, it made it feel like this thing that I often wondered if I would ever be successful at, like all this healing that I came here to do. It feels like it's finally been successful enough that these other things can be possibilities now. And it's funny too, because the image that I've always had of her, once the universe pointed me in the direction of my twin flame, I could totally see the connection there. it's kind of crazy because, you know, and being able to look at my life through the lens of what the universe has given me to look through now and see this, you know, this twin flame situation and this, all these other people, like my soul family that I feel is like really, really close, and that I've been looking for my entire life. It's like I can see how this stuff's always been kind of dancing around in the periphery, and like if I looked at it, it wasn't there. I can directly see it, but yet, okay, like my my twin flame, even just saying that on the video, I know it sounds kind of silly to a bunch of people, and it kind of feels silly in a lot of ways, since I haven't met him yet, but seeing how his name has literally followed me my entire life, and how there's been a lot of stuff, like I remember thinking, oh, I like this hairstyle and I like this, and you know, certain things like the hair thing. I knew what I liked back in high school, so I put that in there, and it's like all this other stuff has since come up. Abraham Hicks is always saying that if you know what you don't want, then you know what you do want. So it's like stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily realized I wanted in another person, or in a connection. Then I ended up married to somebody I knew I shouldn't be with. I mean, I think the whole, as crazy as this sounds, he was somebody that it kind of feels like we're not even the same species. And I said that right at 22 on the clock. So I think there's something to it. That, or it's my my twin flames higher self patting me on the back. Yep. See, the funny thing is, looking back at this, walking down the aisle, there's this voice screaming at me in my head, no, don't do it. You don't even like each other. Why are you doing this? And I felt like I had to, like, you know, at that point, money had already been spent. And a lot of time wasted. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to. I mean, there was a lot where it did feel like obligations. And when I've looked at it more recently, I wasn't there for my ex. I think I saw and recognized a really bad situation for a small child and for my ex's family members, because I knew the situation that he was involved with and had created and was continuing to okay, so in the continuance of bad decision making and how much can we poke at somebody and make them really think they're crazy. He loved doing that shit. I could speak from experience because I felt crazy most of the time that I was with him. And partly for being with him, but then also because it was at a time I didn't fully know myself and who I was. And so I was trying to rediscover that for myself. But I did know that I liked helping people. And I knew that especially his child and especially his brother were going to get hit the worst in that situation. That was his doing, his creation. And I didn't feel like I could sit back and allow that to just fully happen without somebody who was able to see what was going on and what it was for what it was. I couldn't let them go into that situation and not be there to help. And I know that sounds jacked up because you can't fix everybody else's problems. However, you know, one of the things it's really, I think, become more clear to me, and I always saw this, like for my ex's brother, he felt more like family than my ex ever did, you know, and I think I was there because he was trying so hard to just exist and not be seen, and trying to not be seen, it seemed to attract a lot of negative attention to him. And as I'm saying this is this was my life too. I just didn't realize it until I was trying to help somebody else work through their version of it. And he never would have asked for help. But some of the stuff that came up that I had to stand up for him on, I think his situation could have ended a lot. I mean, it could have, honestly, I could have seen him commit suicide over the stuff that he was trying to exist with and not be in anybody's way. And then this thing that came up that wasn't true, and that I saw coming from a mile away, you know, I could have seen that being something that if someone hadn't been there to help him, I could have seen him committing suicide or something from that. And I think that right there was reason enough, even though I didn't have a full understanding of it. But yeah, when I was walking down the aisle, I was having this whole conversation going on in my head with this voice that said, don't do it. You don't want to. You don't like him. He doesn't like you, or you don't even love each other, any of it, or like each other. And then I kind of, at the time, I think I was trying to pin that voice on the ego. That wasn't my ego. My ego, I think, works differently in some ways, I guess, than most people understand egos to. Maybe not. Maybe I just look at it differently. My ego was the voice saying, we have to do it. You know, we're obligated. So much money has been spent on this, and so much time, and seeing all these things that I'd done that went against what the church was telling me that I could never do, and I did anyway. So yeah, that, like, the loud voice, for a time I would have thought that was my higher self voice talking. And now, since I'm aware of this twin flame path and I'm seeing how everything's connected there, I'm wondering if maybe, okay, Okay, so Twin Flame. I've watched all these videos because I was trying to get more information, trying to figure out what it was about. And I heard it from like 3 different people before this one really hit me and was like, listen. And what they said was 1 soul in 2 bodies. So it's basically another incarnation of yourself walking around right now. So then that made me start thinking that maybe our higher self voices it's one and the same if it's the same soul, but at the same time, maybe the one I'm hearing is his higher self. And the one he hears is mine. It's one and the same, but it kind of I can't make that not sound crazy. It just sounds weird. But it is what it is. But it makes perfect sense for me, guys, because okay, realizing, like, I've always had this thought that there's this one perfect person out there for me that, like, the exact complement, not perfect because they're on, like, they need to be on this pedestal or whatever, but the perfect complement to me and my craziness. And there's been, it doesn't matter how good or not good anybody was in the past. It's like when they weren't right, I knew they weren't right, even if I lied to myself and tried to make them be right. Yeah. Don't really know where I was going on that path much further. But it seems like it would make even more sense if it was him at the 5D or upper levels focusing on me and no, we don't want to do this, don't do this. It makes sense to me. And I know it sounds crazy, but it does. It makes sense to me. And it's funny because I had, after the universe pointed me in his direction, as my counterpart, I was like, well, I don't even know if we even have anything in common. So I randomly had some things pop up one day with interviews that he had done. And when I was watching him, I was down this little rabbit hole for a time. And I watched them. And I was like, okay, it's like everything that I wanted to know or needed to hear, it was touched on in some way. There's a crow over there. I really wish it is my mission to befriend the omens. Ravens, crows, whatever. I keep thinking I'm gonna like have like a bag of peanuts or something. I'm gonna put it in my car one day and then I can leave them around to befriend crows and ravens because they do remember you, And my aunt and I have told my grandfather many times, like, do not piss them off, because we don't want your drama from having pissed them off, and they know who we are because of you. I've heard stories. They do this stuff. It is my intention to befriend them one of these days. Anyway, that's a little off the topic for the moment. Where was I at? Oh, so what I needed to hear from those conversations, I did hear. But the other day, 2 of them came back up, and it's like, wait, what? Okay, so, well, it's here again, so let me watch it. And it's like, I have been doing a lot of work on myself, and energetically speaking, a lot of meditation, all this stuff. And when it came up again, and I watched it, it's like, that's not how I remember this stuff happening. Like, the stuff that I remember before that I needed to hear, it was still there, but it wasn't as much there. And it was kind of glossed over instead of a focus topic. And I sent messages to like 3 of my friends, and mind you, at least 2 of them aren't going to get it. One of them is one of my cousins that will actually watch my videos. She probably gets it more than anybody else that I talk to. And she's like, well, could you be remembering it wrong? Or maybe maybe it's your memory. And it's like, there's this aspect where I think that is why I had such a struggle with mental health concerns in the past, is I think in other incarnations it has been a problem, and I have been seen as crazy. And that brings enough weight to have to try to process through. But now I'm looking at it, it's like, I think it's changed. And I know that sounds crazy, but I do think, like, the more I focus on improving myself and getting to where I'm meant to be, stuff is changing. Oh, man. Let me see if I can find this little thing real quick. Sorry, baby. I started this book the other day, and I was reading it at the blood center, and he kind of touched on it. And I think it was exactly the thing. If I can turn to the page, which is literally the next page. Just can't turn it. Okay, so this is my book, The Wisdom Wheel, and I don't know how to say his last name, so there it is right there. But I was at the blood center the other day donating platelets and read this part, and I think it makes sense. He says, shamans say vision can flow in the opposite direction. Rather than interpreting what the eye sees, the mind can create it. I'm not talking about a hallucination. When you can perceive the invisible world where things exist in potential before taking form, you can project those ideas into the world of the senses. You can change the map of reality that you carry within you, and this changes the reality that you experience when you are going about your everyday activities. The ancient sages call this dreaming the world into being. They believe that seeing or sight is the act of perceiving reality, while vision is the act of co-creating it. I read that, and I was already thinking that that was something that was happening, and why I'm suddenly realizing that these people that I've been seeing since I was a senior in high school are soon to be coming into my life, and that I've always been connected with them. That this child that I don't have yet is more of an energetic possibility now than it's ever been. I kind of, honestly, I think she's one of my spirit guides at this point in time. And you know what? Just thinking about everybody on the other side kind of, yeah, they mess with me. I've said many times that my higher self, or whatever it is up there, is a smartass. And I'm 100% sticking by that, even though now I'm kind of thinking it's like, you know, my twin flames higher self and our future child or our future child spirit there. Okay, I just had a thought that I was gonna go with, and now I don't even remember what it was. But yeah, I think, oh yeah, I do. Okay, since I've been skating outside by myself a lot, like I started doing it, and when I realized that the people that I'd been seeing for so much of my life, actually exist on this other level, and we'll get here eventually. I started just seeing all this stuff, you know, different scenarios. It has brought up a lot of stuff that I've had to work through, because I found, you know, little hang-ups like the idea of intimacy. I had one morning where I woke up and, energetically speaking, I was basically told I needed to work on this thing. And not like that, but like the vision, I guess, that I was seeing at that time brought it up to where I had to see it and realize I needed to work on it. So like the idea of having any kind of intimacy with anybody, you know, like that vulnerability thing, that's kind of a difficult thing. And being my authentic self, you know, so much of my life told me that it wasn't okay to be my authentic self. And the more I'm starting to do it, the more I like being me. And all my chaotic craziness, I actually enjoy spending time with me. Oh, I told the guy that trained me at the factory job, he said, I don't even know, there were some people that were sneaking their music or whatever, and you weren't supposed to have earbuds or anything like that. And I was like, you know, I really don't feel like I need to, because I can literally entertain myself, you know, whether that's random songs popping into my head. Like in basic training, I think I had a 2-week span of time where I Feel Pretty from West Side Story was in my head. I don't know why. I hadn't watched the movie in years. But for whatever reason, for 2 weeks, that was with me. And then there were other weird ones. But that was just the first one that came to mind. But yeah, like I was telling him, it's like I've never really had a hard time entertaining myself. I laugh at myself a lot and then won't share what I was necessarily laughing at with other people. Because I guess this goes with that vulnerability thing, because, you know, I used to think that they would probably think I was stupid. Even yesterday in the video, I remember a guy walked past and I was like, he thinks I'm nuts. But then I also give myself permission to embrace that side of me as well. So yeah. But yeah, like this whole idea of vision, it's like I've seen these people for over 20 years now. I graduated high school in 2002. So, for what, 22 years this year. And I have enjoyed connecting with them, and I think realizing that we've always been connected. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of people just like me out there with, you know, having grown up experiencing these really dark feelings and emotions and having to work through them, because we're here to transmute this pain, not only ours, but for people unwilling to do it themselves. We've had to work through pains associated with that as well. I'm thinking of Victor Oddo posted something a while back on I think Instagram, where he was talking about 3 signs you might be an indigo adult. Of course, you always heard about indigo children, and it's like, now we're adults. It happens. So the things that he had posted, you know, stuff like connect more with nature than people. And, you know, animals, of course, obviously. And another one was, I forget how he worded it, but something about rebels to the core would rather die than conform. It's like, hey, yep. You know, and ever since I heard the term for the first time, it's like I always felt really connected to it. And then, you know, I've heard other terms more recently, like I think there's the rainbow children and the crystal children. And I don't think there are specific cutoffs for either which way. There's a lot of blending, I think, between the different groups too. But I remember when I was in Alabama with my ex, he had something on TV, and I don't even know what it was he was watching, but it's like I got put on pause when I heard them start talking about the legend of the Rainbow Warriors. And I don't remember which, I think it's multiple tribes that have this legend, but they talk about a time when the earth is dying, and then a generation will rise up and they'll be the Rainbow Warriors. And I don't remember the full thing, but I remember I just like stopped, and it's like, that's why I'm here. If I know nothing else, I know I connect with what they're talking about right there. That is why I am here. And I feel like that is why a lot of us are here now. anybody that's ever fallen into this indigo child category or any of the others that they have out there. I think the universe brings it to you. At times you can receive it and connect to it. And then, kind of like the changing interview the other day, as I do the work on myself, and I can see how there have been timelines that have collapsed as I shift into becoming a higher version of myself, and embracing more of who I am and trying to put that into the world. Things have been changing. And it makes sense. Okay, I watched it feels like my entire life I have just been like taking little bits of information and storing them away in my head for the right time. And now as I'm starting to piece them together, like, okay, in Annie's class and Lanita's class, these have been places where huge stretches of stuff just snap in. And it's like, I don't know, it's like you just pull the start of it and then like the series of things just snaps in to place and makes perfect sense. It's like, whoa. Suddenly I'm making all these connections with stuff that happened that I've carried around since I was 4 or 7 or whatever other age, you know, all the ages along the way. And it's just, it makes perfect sense either with why I would have chosen some of these challenges to face and work through, and for what I feel like I'm being moved into, because that was one of the biggest things, is aligning with the higher version of myself. It's like, okay, I read something or heard something a while back that talked about when it's time, nothing can stand in your way of rising into who you came here to be. Nothing can prevent you from walking into your destiny. And I mean, I very much think that's the case. And I'm starting to realize it, and as I'm realizing it more and more, like 6 months ago, I did, okay, I don't think it, 5-6 months ago, the first time I went live on Instagram, I cried. And now I'm having a hard time shutting myself up in a half hour to keep these videos more under wraps. And I just hit 33 on the time, so of course my repeating numbers, there they are again. And I've seen a ton of them throughout the course of this video, which makes me get more giggly and make more points, or connect more points that I want to continue with. So yeah, what a trip. My babies, 2 of them, the other one's up here. But there's water bottles and stuff on the floor, so I'm not gonna zoom all the way on her. Anyway, I don't remember if there was any part of that I wanted to say that I didn't. Actually, there is this one thing that, you know, like I said, when I started watching all these videos on the twin flame stuff, I've got like these several meditations through Cassady Cayne, She does Twin Flames 1111. She's had a lot of stuff. She's the one that I found when I was looking at this stuff back in 2021. And I got several of her meditations and stuff that I've been, like, it has gone from something that I've done on occasion to become something that I do, like, I do at least one of them before I go to bed and one or two to start my day. And just like energy clearing work. She has this one, I think it's the Twin Flame Harmony Healing or something like that. And it's kind of become one of my favorite ones. Because what she walks you through is clearing out each of the chakras for yourself and then for your twin flame. And she says, if you're worried about, how is it she says it? Something about if you're worried about their free will, remember you're the same energy. It's the same energetic source or whatever. So your twin's higher self will only allow them to release what they're done with and ready to release. So, you know, and then it's clearing the connections between your own and theirs, their chakras. I think Gidget's trying to make a break. She seatbelted, she won't go anywhere. I think she wants to get out of the car again, and probably about dinner time for them. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the meditations that I've been doing quite a bit. And I do that, and then there's one for running energy. Hi, baby. Why? She got dirt on her face because she likes to run. And I think we must have to potty. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. Anyway, I was trying to tell a story. Can I finish telling it first? Get back there. Okay. The story. What was the story? Okay. So I do these, but I don't remember the story. I know that one of the things that I've made that can... Oh. Okay, I gotta cut this off. We'll try to do it again. Tomorrow, I think I'm gonna have to walk them a little bit further before we go home and then feed them because they're ready. Yeah, now she's bored with me. Anyway, I hope that I said the last point anyway there, if I at least finish that up. I know there's something that I want to touch on with Daniele from Harmonious Hearts. The way I do these videos is, as I don't sit and just binge all of them. I can't do that. I don't have the capacity to want to be interested in all that. So I basically rely on the universe to bring them to me as I need them. And when one of them pops up and it gets my attention, it's like, there's a message in that I need to hear. So I will watch that one. And usually there's something that I need to hear. That was another side point. She's not impressed, but okay. For Daniele, I watched this one where she was talking about keys and codes. And it started to occur to me that this is like, okay, if you think about like the people who are fully themselves in whatever they do, they serve their energy, something about like their energetic signature in what they do. The rest of us latch on to something about that. And it's because of these like keys and codes that we each have to share, and we have to be more of who we are and do what we know we are here to do, to be able to shift into, or to put what we have that we're supposed to be putting out there, the keys and codes we are here to share with others, will somehow be out there in our energetic, our energetic signature. So however long it takes for anybody to find any of these videos worthwhile, or find my blog and maybe find something off of there, maybe there's something that, like the keys and codes thing, I heard this from other people, but when Danielle said it, it clicked. And I think that's how it works. It's like, yeah, we pick up the information from others, but then we come across the one where it clicks, and then it's like, oh. See, for me, when I heard Danielle say that, it was that suddenly put in me this urgency to start using my voice, because what if some of the keys and codes of my energetic signature are, is something that like my twin's waiting to find. And that was what really made me start thinking, I'm going to have to do this. Gonna have to start talking, y'all. And now I don't hate it. So that helps. But yeah, just, because there have been these songs that I would come across at any point in my life, and I would just hold on to them, or even movies and actors and actresses. A big one, I like to say Keanu Reeves was a big reason that I was able to get out of my toxic marriage, because in that time, those last weeks that I was there, I started wearing the red jasper, so I had that. My necklaces are a hot mess. They're all tied up. I started wearing the red jasper, so like the energetic door had shut between me and my ex, and then like all this other stuff just kept snapping in. And now looking back at like how the black dogs were a source of protection for me when I couldn't do it myself, what happened in that time is there was that whole Bakersfield thing with Keanu, where something about the flight got canceled, and he went to get a car or whatever for himself, and was like, well, these other people are stuck too, and ended up getting a van, and they all like went to wherever they were going together. And all these people came out of the woodwork with all these stories about how he's just a wonderful human being. And everybody had all this favorable stuff about him. And I think that's because he's one of those people that is true to who he is. And he's not somebody that, hasn't had pain in his life or anything. But in spite of that, he is who he's supposed to be. And because he is fully embracing that aspect of himself and putting that out into the world, it lets all the rest of us, hone in like he's a beacon. And when all this stuff started coming up, and there were just all these stories of, oh, he plays hockey with these guys that he met however many years ago or whatever, just all this stuff came up. I remember seeing this stuff in the life that I was living. There was very much not that. And that voice was back. It said, if there is one, there are others. Those are your people. You need to get out of here and find your people. And what I have since come to realize is that this is very much a part of that, because it has involved me becoming more me. And yeah, we might not have done anything spectacular yet, but you never know what the thing is that is going to make all the difference for somebody else. And I think that's the point. You know, if anybody can get through all my long-winded storytelling to get to the point of these videos, or find one in them, then awesome. I think, you know, after you put it out there, all you can do is trust that the universe is going to take it where it needs to go. And, you know, like the interview that I rewatched that had changed. I had another thing on YouTube, Journey to Union. She had a video posted a couple days ago that I found last night, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't know. Anyway, it was recent, and I watched it last night, and I think it was how inner union I just pulled this video up a few minutes ago so I could re-listen to it before I started talking about it, because I knew I was going to. How inner union shifts the divine masculine. And it's like, if my having done all this work is changing his reality too, and collapsing timelines where he exists not as his higher self, then it makes perfect sense that these interviews would change. And I mean, it makes it one of those things where it's like, I may not entirely trust my reality. I mean, I'm going to have to roll with it because it's all I got. But I know that the one that I watched several weeks ago and the one that I watched this week was not exactly the same. There were components that were mostly the same, but there were definite changes that had also taken place. So on that note, I am going to relocate and walk these dogs a little further, and then go home and feed them. And then probably go skate because it's beautiful and I love this weather. So if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. And until the next time, bye guys.